Live, KHOU 11 News at 10 starts now.
Coming up, rising concerns after 4 cases of young people who've been killed or simply vanished.
Plus, an eventful night for one HPD officer, how a simple traffic stop became a major accident scene.
And signs of life returning to Galveston after the oil spill in the ship channel.
But we begin tonight with new details in a tragic case.
Right, tonight we are hearing from the family of a pregnant woman killed while cleaning up at a local gentleman's club.
The manager of that club is also speaking out about the main suspect in the case, a man who is still on the loose. Malini Basu is live downtown with the latest. Malini.
That's right, Reka and Rucks. Police here released a mugshot of that suspect, but the family wants to know, where is the murderer? The scariest part about this, mom usually takes her 6-year-old son to work with her every night. The night of the murder, the 6-year-old boy, he was begging to his parents, please, can I just stay home? Can I stay home with daddy tonight? This 27-year-old mother, Maria Lucrecia, was 5 months pregnant. Last week, Lucrecia and her unborn child, a daughter, were brutally murdered. She was working as a cleaning lady at Eclipse Gentlemen's nightclub. Police say a former security guard, Osvaldo Fernandez Aguiar, killed her over $1,000.
I don't have words to describe how I feel.
Herman Castro lost the love of his life. Siblings are left heartbroken.
All my family, we cry all the time.
Osvaldo, if you're watching this, you know, if you would have came to one of the management and asked us for the money, we would have definitely given it to you.
Ross Sasaki, one of the managers, says they fired Osvaldo 3 weeks ago because of behavioral and anger issues. Investigators say surveillance video identified Aguiar as the suspect.
We run a background check with all of our employees, but he was hired with a third party. We're thinking that since we hired a security company, we trust them that they run a background check and everything.
But nothing will bring her back. And this little guy, only 6 years old, doesn't even know mom is gone.
Your mom right now, she's in the hospital. She's sick. When he's going to the store or anything like that, he saw the little picture and that thing, and he said, I don't know what happened with my mom.
Now, family members tell us they're trying to come to terms with this. Was mom really killed over 1,000 single dollar bills? If you have any information about Aguiar, you of course are asked to call police or Crime Stoppers. That's 713-222-TIPS. For now, we are live in downtown Houston. Malini Basu, KHOU 11 News.
Melanie, thank you. The trial for a woman accused of killing a man with a stiletto heel is set to begin tomorrow morning. Jury selection began Friday in the murder trial of 45-year-old Ana Trujillo. Investigators claim that Trujillo killed her boyfriend, University of Houston professor Stefan Anderson. He was found dead in his high-rise condo in the Museum District in June of last year. Her attorneys are claiming self-defense.
There are new developments in the ship channel oil spill. Today, oil and tar balls washed ashore on North Padre Island and Mustang Island in Corpus Christi. But right now, crews don't know if it's oil from last week's ship channel spill here in Houston.
But there is good news out there. A week after the spill, the Galveston area is coming back to life. Marcelino Benito has that story.
As oil rolled inland and plagued Galveston shorelines last week, things weren't looking good for the island.
My first reaction was, oh no, we're going to Galveston.
But Keith Mika and his daughter took a chance and came down anyway.
I expected worse.
A lot of people expected a lot worse. After all, it was 168,000 gallons of oil.
We thought we were going to see a bunch of black oil spots on the beach. We thought we were going to see seaweed covered in oil. We just didn't know what to expect.
But instead of oil on the beach, they saw people, crowds of them under sunny skies, wading into clear water, spending money on the island.
The seawall was full of bike riders, hardly any parking on the seawall at all.
It almost seemed too perfect, but the oil is still around. Less than 100 yards from where those people are enjoying those beaches, you can still see the remnants of this oil spill. You can see where the rocks are coated in that thick tar-like substance. And on East Beach, things are worse. That area still closed to the public.
Just watching and waiting.
It's why businesses on the seawall are still holding their breath and keeping a close eye on the tides.
We kind of were iffy about the way the oil spill was going to be and stuff, but it really hasn't affected us yet. But who's to say, what next week will be like either.
The city of Galveston tells us that it believes the oil itself is a short-term problem.
I think we battled a big perception issue that the beaches were covered in oil, that the significance and the impact was much bigger than it actually was.
The concern now is turning that tide of public perception.
Come down and enjoy Galveston. Galveston is back.
So it doesn't become a long-term problem. Marcelino Benito, KHOU 11 News.
Cleanup crews are working hard to get East Beach cleaned up, but at this point, the city of Galveston says it doesn't know how or when that popular beach area will reopen to the public.
And while the cleanup continues in Galveston, we've got some concerns here about rain in our area.
Yeah, Mario, it looks like that recent rain hasn't quite been what we've needed.
No, and the drought is going to be a real significant issue. We're going to talk more about that, but right now, let's take a look at that beautiful Galveston Island, at least during the evening hours. Yes, the winds are out of the south, so if there's any residual oil still out there that hasn't made it to the beaches, and I doubt there is, it looks like it could make it with these southerly winds. It is 60 degrees down in Moody Gardens. The temperatures inside the Beltway are cooling down. We are looking at 50-degree numbers across much of the area, almost as cool as it was yesterday at this same hour. It looks like the temperatures on Galveston are at 61 degrees. We are a little concerned that we're going to see another very chilly night tonight, well below average. Typically, we're in the mid-50s. You can see we're heading down into the low 50s, and we've been below average now 6 months in a row. We're about to close out the month of March, and we're heading into April. Typically, we start seeing some rain, but the state is getting dreadfully close to where we were about a year ago. When we come back, we're going to talk about it to see if there's any relief in sight from the drought that Texas could experience for the next few months. If we don't get any rain anytime soon, we're heading into trouble, folks. We'll be back in just a moment to see if there's any drought relief anywhere around the state, including Houston, in just a few minutes. Back to you guys.
We'll see you then. Thanks, Mario. After a crazy day of basketball, the Final Four is set.
Right, and the young man from Houston is right in the middle of all of that March Madness, Bob.
Man, what a shot. The kid's never going to forget the shot. Final Four is set, and Kentucky got its ticket punched thanks to a cold-blooded shot from a Fort Bend Travis grad, Aaron Harrison. Kentucky and Michigan tied at 72, 2.3 seconds left in regulation. Trip to the Final Four in the balance. Aaron takes a handoff from his twin brother Andrew in the corner, dribbles 3 times, top of the arc, goes in, elevated over Chris LeVert, took the shot, all net, good, his 5th three-pointer of the game. Kentucky celebrating, they beat Michigan, they're going to the Final Four. So next Saturday, it's Florida against Connecticut in the early game, Wisconsin against Kentucky in the nightcap. We'll have a lot more on Sports Extra right after the newscast.
Looking forward to it, Bob. Thank you very much.
Now to the latest on the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Today there were sightings of possible debris as the search enters its 4th week, but so far no confirmation if any of it is connected to the plane. Other objects picked up by search teams over the past 2 days have turned out to be nothing but trash. Back in Malaysia, the families of the passengers are fed up with the uncertainty. A group of Chinese families flew there to confront airline and government officials, but answers may be even more difficult to come by if searchers don't find any wreckage soon. The batteries on the plane's black box pinging devices may have only about a week left.
As people around the world wait for those answers, local church is sending out prayers of support to the family members of the passengers on board Flight 370. This morning, members of the Lighthouse Church launched their One Nation, One Prayer event. It calls for people around the world to join in prayer to help the family members of Flight 370 heal. Now, people are urged to remember what happened to the Malaysian plane could happen to anyone.
To calm the fears of a nation, at least for the people I have influence over. I just wanted to come together, bring our church together, because we as Christians believe that faith and prayer is the answer to all of life's struggles.
The church also lit 239 candles to represent each person on Flight 370.
Coming up, we now know the names of the suspect and the victim in a bizarre murder in Leak City.
Plus, a mission to preserve memories of the aftermath of a deadly landslide in Washington state.
And later, how the falling crime rate in Juarez, Mexico is bringing an unusual kind of tourism.
New details tonight on a story we first told you about last night on KHOU 11 News at 10. League City police have identified the man now charged in the murder of his wife as Felipe Alberto Fernandez. He's accused of approaching his neighbor, an off-duty police officer, and telling him that something was wrong with his wife. Police found Fernandez's wife, Katrina Gonzalez, dead in their home. So far, no official cause of death, but investigators say there were signs of blunt force trauma.
2 people are hurt after a speeding car comes close to hitting an HPD officer and then crashes. It happened on the East Loop near Scott. The officer had pulled over a suspected drunk driver and was about to write that driver a ticket when a speeding red car nearly clipped him. That car lost control and hit a concrete barrier and then flipped upside down. 2 people inside were taken to the hospital. The officer and the person in the other car were not hurt.
A high-speed police chase ends with a crash and some broken bones. It happened when a state trooper caught a man going 100 miles an hour on Highway 249. That driver refused to stop and later crashed into a light pole at the Beltway A intersection. He suffered a broken leg and several cuts. The trooper pulled several bottles of beer from the car. The driver is now in jail.
Still to come, emotions over March Madness taken to a new level.
The self-proclaimed Craigslist serial killer makes shocking new confessions about her victims.
Plus, a mother accused of killing her own children in a drunk driving accident. The outrageous reason she had for getting behind the wheel. The South Indian community of Houston is trying to figure out why several of its members are becoming victims of crime. In the past few months, there have been 4 incidents where young Indians have been murdered or have simply disappeared. Members of the Malayali Association of Greater Houston gathered for a condolence meeting earlier today in Missouri City. Many have been impacted by the spring break mystery surrounding Rice student Remy Jose and the carjacking murder of Stanley Kumbanatal. The House of Pies robbery suspects have been linked to his death. These predominantly Indian Catholics are now looking for answers.
It may happen again next week or next month unless we do something to bring into focus. They're not mad or upset or angry, but they want to bring attention.
Law enforcement representatives from Sugar Land, Stafford, Fort Bend County, and Harris County attended today's meeting.
A woman in North Texas has been charged in a DWI crash that killed 2 of her own children. Irving police say 30-year-old Crystal Suniga had 4 of her kids in her truck when she crashed into some parked cars and a fence last night. 14-year-old Angel Reyes and 10-year-old Ricardo Hernandez did not survive, and the other 2 kids were injured. According to a neighbor, Suniga was trying to catch up with her boyfriend after an argument. Police say her blood alcohol was twice the legal limit. She's charged with intoxication manslaughter.
A woman charged with killing a man she met through Craigslist says the victim was not her first target. 19-year-old Miranda Barber recently told a newspaper in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, that 2 other men had responded to her ad for companionship but never showed up. Police say that she and her husband, Elliot Barber, stabbed 42-year-old Troy LaFerrara to death in a parked car last November. Miranda Barber claims to have killed more than 20 people in Alaska, North Carolina, California, and here in Texas. So far, investigators have found no evidence to back those claims.
More than a dozen students were arrested at the University of Arizona in Tucson after the Arizona Wildcats lost to Wisconsin in the NCAA basketball tournament. Police say several hundred people tossed beer cans, bottles, and firecrackers at police. Officers used pepper grenades to get that crowd under control. The students are charged with resisting arrest, unlawful assembly, and disorderly conduct.
People near Oso, Washington attended church services today for the first time since a deadly mudslide hit last Saturday. Meanwhile, the search goes on for the victims. The official death toll has risen to 21. Around 30 are still missing. Rescue crews are working through rainy conditions and fatigue, along with teams trying to bring back victims' personal items.
We all know how what memories, wonderful things like photos can bring for a person, and so to reunite family members with that is a really important piece of this effort.
A break in the rain is expected soon, and crews hope to make more progress in the coming days. Well, nothing like that here in our area, but rain certainly an issue.
A big issue indeed, or the lack thereof. So we're going to go to Mario now with more about that. Hey, Mario.
Yeah, you know, with each passing day, we have been looking at the dry conditions across much of the state of Texas, and it's getting worse and worse. In fact, we are now looking at reservoirs, and a lot of them are below capacity, well below capacity, over 50%. And we're now looking at almost half the state in a moderate drought situation. And extreme drought, almost a quarter of the state is an extreme drought. Last year, by comparison, 30% of the state was an extreme drought. And unless we get some rain pretty soon, we could reach last year's levels. And right now, so far, 5 months in a row for the Houston area where we've had no rainfall, or we've had very little rainfall, below average. In fact, the month of March, almost 3/4 of an inch below average. All we've seen so far is about 4 inches. That's our rainfall deficit for the year. We've only seen 5.8 inches. That's for the entire year. And here comes one of the rainiest months. We sure could use the total that we should have for this time of the year, which is almost 10 inches. You can see which part of the state is worse, mainly the Red River Valley. And there's a small portion here in southeast Texas that includes the northern part of Harris County and this entire southeastern section all the way to the Sabine River Pass that is not dry. And that's it. The rest of the state's really seeing extremely dry conditions. Our future track is tracking the rainfall to see if there's any relief. And as you can see, just light amounts of rainfall coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico. And that's about it. There's no really organized pattern of rainfall heading towards the Gulf Coast area to provide us some relief from the dry conditions across the state. So unless things change pretty soon, we may see some water rationing back in the state of Texas before long. We're heading into April. Let's hope we get some rain. 58 degrees right now around the Houston area. Dew points at 48, humidity at 70%, pressures at 30.13 and rising right now. Tomorrow, we don't see any rain across the state, as we just saw, at least here in Houston or across the Gulf Coast region. Southeast Texas will see another cool night. Check out those 40s up in Conroe and up around the lake areas. It'll get pretty close to the upper 40s, near 50 degrees there. And the same goes for Houston. We did this yesterday. The numbers dropped to 46 degrees. We'll be closer to 50 degrees tonight. The northern end of the state, where we've got some insulation from those clouds, is still sitting at 70, while the clear area, the coolest spots, which is just kind of reversed, is cool, 58 degrees in Houston. So what we have coming our way for a little drought relief for the Red River Valley are some scattered showers, but not enough really to make a dent in the extreme drought conditions that are occurring up there. As you can see, most of the rain is going to be in the upper Midwestern plains. They'll get a little bit of relief, but we will not. Temperatures are the big story. As we start warming up into the 80s and 90s, we're going to start drying out a lot of the soil across the state. Farmers are going to have a tough time unless we get some rain sometime soon. So there we go into the 3-day forecast, and notice how small. This is a pittance. We need more than this. Only a 30% chance of rainfall. Really not enough to make a big difference as we head into those April showers. The month of April typically brings us some rainfall, but maybe not this time. We'll take a look at the outlook, and later on in the morning when you see Cheetah, she'll see if she can snag up some rain somewhere along the Texas Gulf Coast. We will see a few showers coming out of the Gulf, by the way.
Maybe someone ought to do a rain dance.
Yes, we're going to need it.
Thanks, Mario.
Thanks, Mario. Now that drug violence is down, Americans are crossing the border again to see dentists in Juarez. The reason they're back? Big savings. Our border reporter Angela Kocherga has the story.
Take a 5-minute drive south of the border and you'll find dentist after dentist office. Step inside this waiting room and it's easy to see why.
They can make you a complete do-over.
All of the patients are American.
My dental insurance doesn't cover a lot of the things that I'm having done.
So she caught a flight from Austin and crossed the border.
I would recommend to the male horse boundary.
This patient has been traveling from Phoenix to see his dentist in Juarez for the past 7 years.
I had some appraisals done in the States, and then found out that they could do it here for about a third of the cost.
And often on the same day, depending on the work.
All the doctors are in the same building. I mean, you have a root canal specialist, oral surgery.
Her brother is also a dentist. Another brother shuttles patients back and forth across the border. They arrive from across the U.S.
Dallas, Denver, Chicago, Detroit.
But despite the savings, many Americans stopped visiting Juarez when violence escalated. Now that the murders have declined sharply, they're coming back.
A little by little, they're trusting Mexico again, so that's good.
As more people become comfortable with crossing the border again, the number of patients in this waiting room and others will continue to grow. This dental clinic expects to see a spike in business during summer vacation season.
They did an excellent job of making me feel safe.
Safety and savings in Mexico are giving more Americans reasons to smile. Angela Kocherga, KHOU 11 News.
The U.S. State Department updated its Mexico travel warning for Juarez this year. The advisory says to exercise caution when traveling in the business and shopping districts in the northeast area, but it still advises against all non-essential travel in the rest of the city. After a break, a villain more evil than your everyday feline.
Let's try to look at the viral video, Bane Cat. Pet lovers admit to subjecting their four-legged friends to some pretty funny stuff. But this latest viral sensation, I gotta tell you, it's gonna have you sleeping with one eye open.
Do you feel in charge?
I'm the owner.
And this gives you power over me?
Unbelievable. Okay, meet Bane Cat, the latest take on the Batman villain from the hit movie The Dark Knight Rises. Rob Rance announced it on his YouTube page last week, and it's already gone viral, but he's not sharing how Peanut the cat went along with all of this.
I don't know. I'm not too frightened by that cat.
Yeah,
it's just not
quite.
Didn't hit the mark. You know, a little March Madness, a little NFL.
Yeah, Bob Allen is here now with more on tonight's recipe for KHOU 11 Sports Extra. Hey, Bob.
Hey, guys, we got the fastest 30 minutes in sports television. Newly elected president of the NFL Players Association, Eric Winston, is with us. We'll talk NFL issues from Hollywood and talk with Arian Foster and the co-stars of his new movie. Astros opening day, Rockets injuries, their prospect. Sports Extra starts right after these words.